self-integrity. What that really entails is doing the things that are in your best interest, like keeping your word to yourself. You see, most people get to a point in their life where they get in the habit of not keeping their word to themselves. And when this happens, you can't create change in your life. Because anytime you strive for that change, well, guess what? You're gonna fall back into your old patterns and ruts. And when this happens, it diminishes your confidence. Not just like your confidence in general, but within yourself. Because you're teaching yourself that you aren't to be trusted. I mean, do you trust other people who break their word to you? I mean, let's say that maybe you had a friend and you've been trying to get lunch with them for like a few months, but every single time when you make plans with them, like the day before or the day of, they cancel. Well, obviously you don't trust them. You know not to value their word. And how does that change your perspective on them? How do you perceive them? Obviously, lesser. Well, the same thing happens to you even when you don't keep your word to yourself. That's the same lesson you're teaching yourself. You aren't to be trusted. And it all started because you weren't being an integral person. But look, the reality is, not being an integral person, it's gonna have a much more harmful effect on your life than just having your friends and your clients view you as a lesser person. It's gonna do much worse than diminishing your self-esteem, because it's gonna stop you from hitting all your goals in life. I mean, what would your business look like right now if you kept your word to prospect every single day? What would your body look like if you kept your word from last year to work out? How much better would your relationships be if you kept your word to consistently text people or call them every single day? And how would all this change in yourself affect how you feel about yourself? You see, when you are not being an integral person, well, that means you're going to be letting your emotions dictate your actions. And as you likely know, that's living by your circumstances. I mean, your emotions are a roller coaster. So if you're relying on times when you feel good, you feel energized, you feel motivated to dictate you getting the actions you want, that's a broken formula. And look, I don't even need to expand on this. You can look at your own life and see that it hasn't been working for you. Otherwise, frankly, you wouldn't be here watching this video right now. Another way to look at this is we want you to get in the habit of being an integral person. Now, one way I like to look at this is your habits, they are a double-edged sword. You're either strengthening the habit that you want and weakening the habit that you don't want, or you're strengthening the habit that you don't want and weakening the habit that you do want. So the next time you're in that weak moment, that moment where you're tired, you're exhausted, you're not feeling good, and you're on the verge of not being an integral person, you have to stop and think about that. You have to realize that this is how habits work. They might be tough in the beginning because frankly, you may be 21 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old. Well, you've likely formed the habit of not being an integral person, of not keeping your word to yourself. So you have years of this habit, and at first it might be difficult. But if you're 100% committed, well then you're gonna find that after 30 days, it's gonna be really easy for you to stick to your word. After 60 days, it's practically effortless. And after 90 days, it becomes a part of your subconscious identity. And when this happens, well, guess what? It's gonna be harder for you to not keep your word to yourself than it is to keep your word to yourself. You know, I'd say that this is the one most powerful habit that I've ever formed in my entire life. Because frankly, I used to be at a point where you're likely at right now, where you let your emotions, your motivation, all these circumstances dictate your actions. What happened was, like, tasks that would take me 5 to 10 minutes, they would take me an hour. And when this happened, my business was just stuck. I just wasn't accomplishing what I should do, you know? It felt like it took a full week to accomplish 1 day of work. But then I started working with my mentor, and he taught me this lesson that I'm now teaching you. I focused on being a person of integrity. And for 90 days, I just kept focusing on building this habit. And after 90 days, I was sticking to my word like glue. You know, I remember my favorite meal is steak and veggies. Like, I just love it. It's so delicious to me. And one of my least favorite meals is seafood. Frankly, I grew up, didn't like it. Now, the issue is that seafood, it has a lot of the nutrients that I really need for optimal performance. I remember one time after 90 days of being an integral person, I was like, all right, I'm gonna have seafood for dinner. And so that was my whole plan. And right when I was about to start cooking, my roommate, he literally, I kid you not, he goes, I have extra steak and veggies if you want some. And he knew it was my favorite meal. I was like, oh my God, like, I want that so badly. You know, it looked delicious, smelled good, I wouldn't have to cook. But I told myself I was having seafood that night. So guess what I did? I had seafood, I cooked up that meal, and I did what was best for me. Because I realized if I didn't have seafood, I wasn't being an integral person. Now, I'm not saying that the whole moral of the story here is that you're gonna be able to eat the food you want. But the point I'm trying to get across here is that when I was being an integral person, my business, it grew. My business turned into like a fire that was being lathered in gasoline where it was rapidly expanding. I started getting 3x my monthly income. I started profoundly just creating more impact in other people's lives. You know, before this point, I had worked with like 5 clients. I was like, at the time I was selling low ticket courses, like little challenges and stuff. But then after those 90 days, I was getting like 5 new clients a freaking week. And so it really had a profound effect on my business. And it honestly is the reason why I'm in front of you right now. I can say without a shred of doubt, if I wasn't being an integral person these past few years, I would not be here in front of you. Now, one mistake that I often see people make, or at least that I fell victim to, I should say, is they don't really think things through. So when they tell themselves that they're gonna do something, or they tell other people that they're gonna do X, Y, and Z, they don't really think of how that's gonna play out in their life. So then when the day comes to actually do that activity, they're like, shoot, I shouldn't have told myself or told other people that I was gonna do this. It's not beneficial to my life, to my business. So then you get into that predicament. You're like, well, okay, what's more important? Being productive in my business or keeping my word to myself? And if you're wise, you're gonna choose keeping your word to yourself. In fact, let me tell you a quick little story here. So one day I was out grabbing a beer with my friend, and we're in my hometown. And of course, you know what happens. You see people from your high school. And I remember this guy, Brett, he came up to me and he was like, hey man, like, haven't seen you in forever. He obviously had a few beers in him, whatever. And we started making small talk for 1 to 2 minutes. I freaking hate small talk, but we were making it. And then he was like, dude, we gotta hang out this week. And you know, I had a beer in me too, so I was like, oh, I'll try to be polite. I was like, oh yeah, dude, sounds good. Like, I'll hit you up. When I got home, I was like, God dang it, I don't wanna hang out that guy. I never even hung out with him in high school. But I was in the predicament now. I was like, I gave my word to myself and him that I'd hit him up. But I was like, am I really gonna waste 3 or 4 hours hanging out with this guy that I don't really wanna hang out with? And fortunately, I texted him and asked if he wanted to hang out. And even more fortunately, he didn't respond to me. So it turned out to be the most ideal situation ever because I kept my word to myself. And that's all that matters. Him not responding was just cherry on top. Didn't have to waste my time. So for you, I want you to think through the things you tell yourself you're going to do, or the things you tell others that you're going to do, so that you don't have to face this dilemma where it almost feels like you're losing one way or the other. Everyone has big hopes and dreams to become a better version of themselves, and this probably includes you. You have this idea of who you should be, and you make a plan and start to take action. The problem is that it's so easy to lose hope and motivation when you don't see quick results. In fact, you've probably already experienced that vicious cycle, which is why you're here watching this video right now. But trust me, you're not the only one who's watched your dreams die, keeping you stuck in the same place where you aren't happy or constantly feel like you're not accomplishing enough in life. And the sad thing is that most people are just one small tweak and realization away from changing that pattern forever. You see, as humans, we love to form patterns or get in a rhythm. It's how humans operate. That's why you likely drive the same route to work every day, wake up at the same time, have the same morning routine, and so on. And knowing this one thing can literally make or break that vicious cycle which has kept you stuck for so long. The switch is easy. It's easier than you might think. The one thing you're missing is self-integrity, but most people don't even realize it's missing. How much would your life change right now if you kept your word to yourself? It's literally that simple. You likely keep your word to other people, so why are you not doing it to yourself? And how is that helping you? You see, when you lose self-integrity, you start to form a pattern that keeps you stuck. It becomes a very slippery slope. You think because you missed the gym that one day, or because you had a cheat meal, that it's not a big deal to miss another day or cheat another time, because next week is when you'll get back on track. But then next week rolls around and you fall into your old behaviors, and that change we strive for never occurs. And it all started because you can't keep your word to yourself, even though you're able to keep it to other people. Now, I'm not saying mistakes never happen, because we're all human and we all fall for integrity every now and then. But what would your life look like if you recognized when you messed up and immediately took action to get back on your commitment and reinstated that self-integrity back into your life? Take a look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. Do you think he ever missed a day at the gym or had a cheat meal that he didn't plan? Of course he did. But the difference between him and you is that after his derail, he took action to get back on his plan. His word to himself was one of the most valuable things in his life, and it caused him to change his life forever, and it can change yours too. We all have this amazing potential to become the person we dream of being. It's those little decisions to take action in the future that keep you trapped in your current situation. But being able to recognize when you messed up and to correct that mistake is what will keep you from who you are now to who you want to become. So, if you're the type of person who'd rather choose complacency instead of self-integrity, I can't help you. But if you're the type of person who values their word over failure, then I can help you.